Hello everyone! Welcome to the Theories of International Relations course. We will continue with Chapter 7, Normativism. In this chapter, we will firstly talk about comparing normative theories with empirical theories, then cosmopolitan approach and normative theory, social contract approach and normative theory, and lastly, normative theories and international relations. We are starting with comparing normative theories with empirical theories. In the late 1980s, paradigmatic uncertainty was increasingly debated among international relations scholars. Theoretical debates persisted along the axis of normative commitments and political preferences. For this reason, realist and idealist schools of thought exposed the arguments against each other. Scope of inquiry of normative theories all the time were concerned with value-laden subjects. In that sense, war, peace, conflict, and cooperation shape the main topics of research. Normative theories essentially are related with the subjects of philosophy and ethics. However, normative theories rest on value preferences which cannot be tested or verified with factual experiments, and this is an important difference from empirical theories. Moreover, they are not concerned with the proposition related to what is, but what ought to be, what should be. Empirical theories intensify on the real reasons of relations between statesmen and foreign policy. Diplomatic history introduces ample proof for this perspective. From time to time, this contention is conducted in the axis of idealism and realism. However, the traces of the elements of value and norm would be seen in the studies carried out in the framework of realism as well. Either normative theories or empirical theories are also criticized for some perspectives. In other words, both have certain weaknesses. Let's talk about cosmopolitan approach and normative theory. Normative writers criticize the relativist approach, and if everything is accepted to be relative, then nothing would have any concrete meaning. On the other hand, those scholars that base their arguments on relativism refuse cosmopolitanism. In other words, they do not accept the universality of some values. Universal law, natural law, universal peace, universal morality, universal human rights are not accepted by them. Cicero, who is an important philosopher in the Western thought, stated that true law is a law in coincidence with nature. Cicero pointed out that a single justice depending on single law is valid for all society. For him, if there was not justice in nature, it would not be known as the concept of justice. The background of this cosmopolitan viewpoint rests on the idea of common law in Roman Empire. According to this approach, values transcend the societies, and it is not possible to attribute them to one society. Kant, who is the best-known representative of the cosmopolitan understanding, discusses ethics and reason in his studies. He also takes into consideration the concepts of peace and war as the basic phenomena of social structure. According to him, an individual has the freedom to choose right, ethical and moral, and his behaviors are not determined in advance. Now we can move on to social contract approach and normative theory. The approach of social contract is another important approach which should be regarded for normative thought. According to Locke and Rousseau, by forming a higher authority, individuals would accept voluntarily to leave their certain rights to preserve their freedoms and security. Social contract theory depends on the assumption that the individuals might voluntarily bind themselves with certain principles. In international relations, as states choose the apparatus for individual satisfaction, they will also sacrifice their small interests for larger interests. Social contract theory is a hypothetical and fictive example for this. For utilitarianism, the social and individual interests overlap. As an individual might seek his own interest, he would play for the increment of the interest of society. As he works for the happiness for himself, he works for the happiness of other people. Utilitarian philosophy assumes that when an individual works for his or her own utility, he or she automatically works for the utility of community. For them, the irrational behaviors and actions of individuals in society might stem from the underdevelopment of their intellectual capability. Despite the fact that rationalist or realist approaches assume that the states only decide for their own interests, for others, like pluralists, idealists, and globalists, as well as normativists, foreign policy process cannot be excluded from values and normative concepts. This is because the concepts such as the best, very productive, just, or necessarily good for the means chosen to reach these foreign policy objectives would define the values, and these indicate the impossibility of exclusion of values from foreign policy decisions. Our last topic for today is normative theories and international relations. Normative element in international relations is persistently an indispensable phenomenon for human beings. In fact, those who are criticizing the normative theories are using normative discourse and normative commands in their foreign policy expressions. States try to excuse their coalitions with other countries by moral reasons. Sometimes, states try to explain their political practices, such as foreign intervention, military intervention, or attacks, with moral necessities, such as to prevent the aggressive state or save a weak nation, even if their real objective is to save national interest. In addition to the fact that foreign policy activities are tied to moral principles, some foreign policy goals also have ethical and moral content. Foreign policy goals are addressed to certain concepts such as peace, law, justice, international stability, social solidarity, and freedom. Critics toward the normative theories is that they are value-laden propositions and cannot be tested, and their skepticism is questionable because normative theories, which express judgments, reflect the individual views, emotions, and personal preferences. It is not possible to refer to them as right or wrong, since they are not composed of factual assumptions. Furthermore, normative theories do not have the characteristic of verification or falsification that empirical theories have. As scientific theories are concerned with the empirical world, normative theories are related to an ideal world that should be. For this reason, normative theories cannot be applied to the problems faced every day. Therefore, normative theories are interested in an imaginary world and can be claimed by realists as utopic theories. Well, this is the end of our program for Chapter 7 of the Theories of International Relations course. Don't forget that we will continue our program with Chapter 8. Goodbye.